Hey everybody, it's Lon Seidman. I got in a couple of chargers from Oraimo the other day. These are GAN chargers that are performing pretty nicely, at least in some of the testing I've done with them so far. And what I wanted to do is talk about these products as a review, but also talk about the confusing nature of USB Type-C on a charger like this so you can understand what you're getting into when you buy one of these things. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that these came in free of charge from Oraimo. However, they are not reviewing or approving what you're about to see, nor are they sponsoring this video. So let's get into it now and see what these devices are all about. Now, these are GAN chargers, which means they are very small, but they can output a good amount of power in that small footprint. And the two that we have here on the desk I found to be very competitively priced, which is why I was interested in checking them out to see how they might compare against some of the more expensive ones out there. Now, these are similar in some ways because they both have 3 USB Type-C charging ports and a USB-A charging port. However, this one here is kind of like a little extension cord. It might be good for traveling because it has 2 AC outlets on board, and these kind of just pass through power from the outlet, so you're not restricted when you've got multiple things plugged in. And the only note on this one, the extension cord model, is that it doesn't work on 240 volt outlets outside of the US. This one is pretty much US only because it's limited to 120 volt outlets, but this one will work on 120 or on 240. Now, Oraimo says you'll get 120 watts out of each of these devices' USB ports, and that is an aggregate total of all of the ports combined. Now, when you have one device plugged into the USB-C port, that device can draw a maximum of 100 watts. If you add a second device and put it into port 2, it will split port 1 and 2 to 60 watts maximum each. So even if you have 2 devices plugged in and only one is drawing power, the most it can draw when a second device is attached is 60 watts out of both of these. So just be aware of that. If you got a laptop that wants like 87 watts, like some of the MacBooks want, you'll want to make sure that it's the only device connected to get the maximum power out of it. Normally the Mac will run just fine at 60 watts, but there might be circumstances where it may not charge the battery, or you may get a message on screen saying you don't have enough power going to the laptop. One of the nice things about the Powerstrip model here is that you also have the AC outlets. And so this will pass through 1250 watts out of both of these outlets. I don't recommend using that much power, but something like a gaming laptop will work just fine out of here while you're also using all the USB ports. And I tested that a little bit earlier and it worked just fine. Now, it also gets more complicated when you look at port 3 on here, because this port works differently than these two do. So while these support the regular USB power delivery, it can go to 60 watts each. This one is maxing out at 30 watts. So no matter what you do, you never want to plug a laptop into the lower port. Not that it's going to break it, it's just that you're not going to get the maximum power out of it. Now, the USB-A ports here at the bottom will draw 30 watts. Now, if you've got something plugged into port 1 and something plugged into this one or this one, you'll get 90 out of the top and 30 out of one of these. And if you have everything occupied, the way they distribute the power is 65 watts, 30 watts, 10 watts, and 10 watts. So as you can see here, things vary based on how you have things connected to the power here. It's not as simple as just plugging something in. So if you've got a Raspberry Pi or something that is really dependent on a certain amount of power going to it, just be aware of what each of these ports do. And to their credit, in the manual, they've got a very good breakdown of all the different scenarios that you might run into on this, so you can figure out how to get things configured in the right way. And they even printed it on the labeling here at the bottom. Even though it's hard to read, it's there. So you have a reference that travels with you all the time. And this is not unique to this brand. All of these power supplies have similar issues given the complexities involved with USB charging. But I like these just because they've been performing well in my testing. And I also really like this one because you kind of get the best of both worlds here. You can still plug in your high-powered chargers when you're on the road and have a good number of USB ports here for charging. Now, one issue I've run into with these GAN chargers is that they are very dense and heavy. And a lot of times I find that they fall out of the outlet that you put them in, even with a little nudge. And in some cases, you might have an older outlet that can't really hang on to those plugs very well. So be aware of that. One of the things that I recommend you do if you're traveling is maybe get a small extension cord that you can plug this into so it's not hanging vertically off a wall. And that's why I kind of like this one better, because it's like an extension cord and you can just plug it into an outlet and put this safely on the floor or a table or something like that. But of course, this one doesn't work overseas outside the US, and this one does. So if you are planning to travel with this, just get a cheap extension cord to go with it, and you don't have to worry about it popping out of the wall on you. And they don't provide anything in the box, unfortunately, to help keep it connected to the wall. So just get one of those cheap cords and you'll be good to go with that. But all in, I'm very happy with the way these perform for the price point. And if you're just looking for something to charge your devices overnight, you don't need to have 100 watts going to all of them. So this could work very well as an overnight charger. Just be aware of how it distributes the power if you do plan to put your laptop under load. And if you are doing that when you're on the road, bring this one with you and just plug your computer's power supply into the AC outlet on the side. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Chris Allegretta, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Logic KGR, Tom Albrecht, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.